Welcome back to United States of Australia, and it's a big episode. I'm excited. It's a premiere episode, not a live one, but this one I've been looking forward to for a while. First of all, I'll bring in my good friend from Get My Go fame and many other things. Eyes up here with Francine and a plethora of things that we've discussed before, but he's my friend. Please welcome back Chad. Welcome back to United
What's
States
up?
of Australia.
Yes, very honored to be on this episode. I appreciate you invited me. Very early for us, but I appreciate you being here. Or me
No,
being
I
here
appreciate.
with you.
Yeah.
See, I
No, I
can't get my
appreciate.
bearings. I apologize.
Yes, I reached out to you and you were keen as soon as I told you about it. But yeah, my other co-hosts don't know a lot about our guest today. But you were someone I know is aware of his work. But first of all, we gotta bring in my usual co-host and friend, a man that his BMI reading is how is he still alive? Robbie the Meredith fan. How you
Uh,
doing?
uh, uh, so, yeah, that's pretty accurate. I'm not gonna lie.
Robbie, you had an out, man. When he popped you out of this room, you had an out.
Yeah, you could have run.
Okay,
You could have
you could
run.
have
Yeah,
run,
that's
and
true.
this would have all got to you know what. But you're still here, so I guess I give you a little bit of credit.
Yeah, no, I thought about. Oh, well, the power went out. There was an ice storm, so
But no, the reason Robbie is nervous, and it's something I've wanted to do for a long time, and he's been gracious enough to give us some of his time. Uh, a man that I've been a fan of since I discovered Opie and Anthony, and then I rediscovered him on WATP and different other things in the Dabbleverse. I am really excited to welcome Dr. Steve to the show. Welcome, Dr. Steve.
Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening.
Yes.
Yeah, what is it? What is it for Australia?
Yeah,
It is 10 p.m. on a Saturday night, so
Jesus.
it's a perfect time to party and spend some time with Dr. Steve. And look, we all know Dr. Steve is a man that's has a lot going on, so we've got to we've certainly got to get it moving here with Dr. Steve.
we're fine. I spent some good time in Australia, actually, and the coming home sucked, though. It's like
Yeah, I
I
bet.
that's what
lost.
I've
It
heard.
seemed like I lost a week coming home.
No,
It
I
just-
bet that's an amazing way to start, because it is something, given it's the United States of Australia, and I do kind of try and teach my co-hosts a little bit about Australia. I was going to ask about any experiences you've had in Australia, and yeah, if you've got an interesting story or anything
Well,
related
sure.
to Australia.
We came on a business trip, and my wife's partners are rednecks. If you don't know what that is, I just country folk. But there's country folk, and then there's rednecks, and these people were rednecks. They're just and they went to the concierge at the Four Seasons in Sydney and went, "Do y'all have an Outback?" And the concierge was like, "Yeah, we've got 4,000 miles of it. You're bloody welcome to it."
Yeah.
And so we no, we had a wonderful time, stayed in Sydney for a while, and then we went to a place called Hayman Island, if you've ever heard of it. And
I've heard the name. Yeah.
You had to get there by helicopter, and it was some posh plan. We didn't pay for any of it. It was all we basically won it in a contest, but it was a beautiful country. Loved every minute of our time there, so I'm a big fan of Australia.
Well, look, that's great. And a lot of people say that, and it's easy to say that when you travel to a place.
Correct.
Yeah. People are
I
not
understand there's
necessarily.
issues everywhere. Yeah.
Yes, no, but no, I always find it interesting. One topic we had a while ago, just because of my co-host's ignorance of Australia. Do you have an Australian athlete in your head? Who's your favorite Australian athlete? Is there one that you can think of?
No, I actually, the one I was thinking of is actually South African. So, now that I think about it, I just realized I had an answer, and then I said, "Oh shit, Can we curse on here, by the way?"
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Okay. I was like, "Oh shit!"
Who?
It was Oscar Pastor.
Oh, the murderer.
Yeah, the murderer.
Even better. He did have a link to Perth, though. I think so. Some of his family was living in Perth when he killed her or something, which is where I
That
am in
sounds
Perth.
right.
There was a link there. I do remember that. No, that's good. That's good. It continues the theme of Americans knowing nothing
I know.
about Australian athletes. It's great. Look, yeah, as I mentioned earlier, and Chad, I don't know if you want to kick it off first. If there's any burning questions, I discovered you through Opie and Anthony, and I always thought you were fun when you came into the studio.
Oh,
Chad,
thanks.
kick it off with something that you want to
Yeah,
ask.
sure. Yeah, it was always fun when you were in the studio, but I always loved when they would call you, right? So you would seem
Yes.
like you'd be going into somewhere, you'd be going into an appointment, you'd be going in to see somebody, and they'd be like, "Oh, get Dr. Steve on the phone. We have to ask him
Yes.
some burning
I'd always
question."
be on rounds.
Yeah, and it would be something so ridiculously stupid, and you'd have to stop what you were doing and come in. I mean, it was always such a highlight for me personally as a listener.
Yeah, it was fun.
But obviously, over the last 10 years, it's been incredibly strained. It's been very, very bad. They've been at each other's throats. They were together a little bit, couple phone calls. But recent developments the last couple of days, there's been a little bit of levity. There's been some lighthearted Twitter returns, some quote tweets.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts? What do you think about the quote tweeting between the two of them?
Well, listen, when they broke up, they were very gracious in the fact that neither one of them asked me to take a side. And so Opie knew I was still friends with Anthony, and Anthony knew I was still friends with Opie. And I've always wanted to. They were so good together. I mean, the first time I was in the studio with them was in October of 2005, and they just had such great chemistry together, even though they weren't hanging out together anymore. At one time, they were very good friends. I mean,
Right.
they lived basically lived together almost, and Opie lived with Anthony's mother-in-law, I think. So,
Yes.
um, yeah, I'm very. I would love to see them at least be friendly again. You know, they've taken separate paths. They don't have a whole lot in common anymore. Anthony's very sort of right wing. Opie's a little more middle to left wing, and Opie's all about living in New York City and Manhattan, and Anthony really is Long Island now, a South Carolina guy. So I would just like to be able to see mommy and daddy be friendly again, in
Did
this
you
divorce.
did you think maybe even a year ago we wouldn't even have gotten to this point of them even communicating back and forth? Because it did seem, look, the
Yeah.
jabs seemed like they were coming more from the Anthony side, and I love both of them too. I never, as a fan, took a side. I love both. I maybe would lean more towards Opie just from the broadcasting side. I've always been a fan of Opie,
Yeah.
but I never took a side as a fan. But it seemed like a year ago maybe this would never happen. What about from your point of view?
Yeah, no, I agree. And I don't know how interesting this is to the general audience, but I thought they were done. And his strategy, which is I think is a good one, was just ignore all of this stuff. And he would every once in a while tip his stick his toe in the water, mostly when he was forced to. And then this business with the Dabbleverse happened, where he started having Cardiff Electric, the potato, and corn diff, and be Dabbler on his show, and he kind of got involved in that. And I think that softened him a little bit because he realized that all the trolls aren't necessarily haters. Some of them are actually fans. And that may have softened his attitude a little bit. I haven't really talked to him about it. But I think Anthony was always open to be friendly. He just loves to throw the jabs out when he feels that the friendly attitude isn't being reciprocated. So,
No, I agree.
I don't
And,
put a
and
lot of weight into it. Go ahead.
Just let me say this one thing. When you look at the Dabbleverse, right? You look at the corns and the potatoes and
Yeah.
the masks and everybody else. And no slight or no shade thrown at anybody. It makes you yearn for the days of the Rich Voss and the Joe DeRosas of the world and all the ridiculousness they did on the air.
Yeah.
When you see all the characters that have come through the Dabbleverse, that's all I have to say.
No, I agree. And those guys are still around. It's
Yeah.
the Vosses of that, they're just not hanging in the studio with Opie and Anthony anymore, which that is sad.
No, I agree. And yeah, I mean, I caught Opie and Anthony like at the very end. I think I caught him just after Anthony got fired when I first discovered
Oh
him. So
gosh, that's a
What a time to
weird
grab
place
them.
to.
yeah, it was just like a heartbreaking moment to realize, oh, there's not going to be any more of this. But
That's like getting
yeah,
into Star Wars with The Last Jedi.
yeah,
If
exactly.
that was your first exposure to Star Wars.
Yeah, yeah. But no, I love the show going back over YouTube and all that. And yeah, a lot of people, I know Chad's an Opie guy, and a lot of people love to bash Opie, but Anthony's never been the same level without Opie, and Jim's never been the same level without those guys. Like,
Yeah.
do you feel Opie gets unfairly criticized at times, given what he did, what he was for that show?
Oh yeah, and I catch hell for it every time. And I'm sorry about my voice. I had I had COVID, and then I had post-COVID pneumonia, and I've just my voice is a mess. But I watched Opie in the studio multiple times, and the way he guided the ship. I mean, he was the pilot of the ship, and there were missteps. There were times when he veered when maybe they should have stayed with that topic. But, for the most part, the reason that they were so successful was his ability to keep things flowing and keep things interesting. And, he catches hell too for just not being funny. I disagree. When the Opie and Anthony show was really hot, Opie made me laugh every show. I mean, yes, Anthony and Jimmy were more comedically or just generally funny people, but Opie was also a funny person. You have to also know what's funny. And I'm not a funny person myself, but I know what's funny. So I was a good comedy promoter. I did comedy promotion before COVID hit. And, they were very successful because I know what's funny. And Opie definitely knows what's funny, even if he's not a comedian himself.
But
No,
hang on,
that's great.
that's what also made your segments great too. When you would come on, is that your technical phrasing of any kind of medical terminology mixed with whatever they were talking about made
Right.
it comedic gold on the air, because whether it was Anthony or whether it was Opie, you sending them just regular medical terminology mixed
Yep.
with whatever they were talking about in the moment. It was perfect comedic timing and radio.
I agree. And Jim
radio
was really
timing.
good at that. Jim,
Yeah.
I would throw out a word and he would latch on to it. Like there's a word that you can use to describe um, uh, the quality of an erection, and it's called tumescence. And he loved that word, and he would use it over and over again. And tumescence. And I sometimes find myself doing his impression of me in my normal speech.
Yeah.
And the people that make fun of me that or do Dr. Steve impressions are all doing Jim Norton's impression of me.
Yeah.
Well,
there's going to be a whole
tumescence secretion.
secretions. There's going to be a whole new Dr. Steve impersonation after this show. It's definitely a different voice. What I do love is when you pointed out that OP every now and then it was like a wrong move, like breaking up the flow, and one that stands out to me, and it always stood out to me when I was listening to it. I forget who was in studio. It was probably Bill Burr and maybe another comic. And it was so funny, and they were all just riffing. And then Opie just goes, "Doctor, how about we have Dr. Steve examine stock of Patty's pussy?" And I'm like, what?
Well, that happened.
Yes, I do know that happened.
Yeah.
But, like at the time, I was like, "What are you doing? These guys are killing it."
Yeah.
And now, you know what I mean. But then it does. But what is it like?
Well, it translated into a thing of us trying to find a pediatric speculum.
That's right.
At 7 o'clock in the morning in New York. And I was saying, well, so much for the city that never sleeps. You can't find a pediatric speculum at 7 a.m. But yeah, it was thankfully I got out of that one.
I know it was
She was very sweet.
Yeah, they got her to crawl through the mouse traps and all of that. Like that's
well, you really are a fan.
Yeah, exactly. I loved it.
It's
I
pretty
remember
neat.
the date with Big A. One of my favorite Opie and Anthony moments was when Big A went, "Oh, fuck you, bitch." I cheered with him, and I was like, "Fuck yes, Big A." You know what I mean? It was a great
Funny.
moment.
Big A is one of
Um,
the sweetest guys in the world too.
yeah, I haven't heard.
And he's still around.
Anything about it. He's still around. Does
Yeah,
he pop on any interviews or any podcasts with anyone?
he's more
Or
Anthony adjacent, but
yeah,
he's a photographer now. He does photography. He's lost a bunch of weight. He's staying on top of his health. He's doing very well. Very proud of him.
no, that's great. No, he was always fun. I enjoyed him
Yeah.
in studio back in the day. Um, what was it like in terms of the tension with Opie and Anthony? Like, did you guys that were coming into the studio, did you pick up on it? Like,
No,
were you guys aware that they were heated? No, not at all.
no, not at all. When I was in there, I know when the mics were off, Anthony and Jim would kind of take off, and Opie would sit in his chair and sort of lean back and start dictating things for people to do. And he was the one that would, fuss at the staff if he thought something wasn't being done fast enough or something like that. But he was the executive producer of that show, so that was really his job to do that. Now, when it came to things like contract negotiations, I understand Anthony's frustration with that. I
Yeah,
mean, his method of basic, well, for people who don't know, what Opie would do is he would wait till the very last minute, trying to put pressure on the contracting folks to up their up their ante by basically threatening, well, maybe I won't sign this thing up to the last second. And it was very stressful for everybody. It was very successful for a long time. I mean, he made them all millionaires. But at the end, when they didn't have quite the leverage that they thought they did, or that he thought that they did, it was not an effective strategy. And you kind of got to know when to fold your cards and or call or do something. And
yeah.
it really led to his downfall up there with that very last contract negotiation.
I think your voice couldn't have been more perfect for "You Got to Know When to Hold 'Em." But Um, but no, yeah, I agree with you, particularly towards the later negotiations when Anthony's like, take the 5 years. Why aren't we taking the 5 years and
Yeah.
getting some money guaranteed? Like, yeah, it did make sense.
Again,
But
it was very successful. They're
yeah,
both multimillionaires, so you can't. But I think that very last one was sort of what led to losing of the morning show and et cetera, et cetera. And I think Ope just wanted to do his own thing anyway. So maybe that was what it was. I never talked to him about business, so he may think I'm a complete asshole for even commenting on it, to be honest with you at this point. But just looking at it in retrospect, probably things would have gone differently had he negotiated differently. But
There's a lot of Easter eggs if you listen back to shows. I mean, and I have. There's
yes,
nothing. Personally, I listen to older shows now because I don't think there's a lot of great stuff to listen to out there. So I do listen to older shows. There's
yep,
a lot of Easter eggs between. Really, I mean, more from Opie's side, but you still hear it from both sides. There's some Easter eggs in there of the tension, even in the earlier shows, where you're like, whoa. Somebody
yeah.
should isolate that, put that out there, and be like, man, you could hear it back then. But I just want to take those tweets from a couple days ago and just push those forward. And man, if we could go 6-7 months down the road and see what happens this year, you never know. Maybe 10 years was the magic number and we could
Yeah.
see a reunion. Maybe that was all it took.
Yeah, I'd love to see it. They came close at one point.
Yes.
When
Yeah. The phone calls.
Yep, they did the phone
Yeah.
calls. They still had good chemistry. Opie even said that. So, I'd love to see it, but I'm not holding out any hope.
I mean, I think it's what whether it's what Anthony needs or not. Watching Opie, it's what Opie needs. I think he needs. Watching him do his solo show, I think he needs to just be able to go, "Hey, you guys, like, let's talk about this," and like have the people that can do it. And obviously, Anthony is, he's a radio Hall of Famer, one of the best to ever do it. if not the best. Like, goddamn, if they could get together, like once a
We all
quarter
want
or
that.
something to do a show, you know what I mean? Like, it would
We
just,
wanted it to never end, but
Yeah.
Ope is like, listen, I'm doing what I want to do.
Yeah.
If he wants, and I understand that too. I keep my audience intentionally small, and I don't have to deal with a lot of the
So do
stuff
we.
that the I don't have to deal with some of the stuff that the people who are getting, 10, 20,000, views on their live stream, or even those who get, substantially more than that, people getting 1.5 million views. I don't have to deal with all of that. So I deal with my core audience, and it's extremely small, but I can say whatever I want to, and they understand where I'm coming from. It's when you get really big. And I think that's the way he feels. He says, I'm doing what I want to do. I got to take him at face value that he's enjoying what he's doing. He gets up in the morning, talks to, however many people, a couple hundred people when the sun's coming up, and he's happy with that. And, he's doing his shows from the beer place, and he likes just hanging with those folks. And then Anthony's doing his thing, for 10 years now. He's been very successful with this subscription-based sort of right-wing, thing that he's doing. And some of it's hilarious. And Anthony's still got it. He's very good at communicating. So, they're doing what they want. I would love for it to have ever ended, but all things come to an end. I mean, look at Howard Stern. I mean, it's not the same show anymore.
Nowhere near it. Yeah.
Puttering along.
I haven't listened in I don't know how long to Howard.
Oh God, it's so bad. I ran into somebody over the last, I'd say, week or so, who said they still listen like religiously, and I used to work for Howard, and I just said, how? And they said, oh, I love the interviews. It's like, how? Like the interviews are so cookie cutter. It's like, how do you listen?
Yeah. So Chad, you used to work for Howard?
Yeah. So I worked for Howard, the tail end of the terrestrial radio into satellite, like that transition. So K-Rock to Sirius. Yeah, it was. And trust me, I love the K-Rock days. Oh, it was the K-Rock days were the greatest. I still say the single greatest days I ever worked for anybody. But, just like anything, it becomes a job, it becomes work, and it becomes not a fun place eventually.
Yeah.
And it was, cutthroat. It was a little nutty. But I worked for Laura, his assistant, and
okay, sure, I know who she was.
She was not very nice.
Is that right? Okay,
yeah, she's a bitch.
Well, I was on Howard a couple of times late before COVID. The Jeremiah Staffer bit, that was my bit. I did that.
Oh, cool. So I unfortunately didn't get a chance to listen because I tapped out probably around 2009.
Okay, yeah, I understand.
And that's the thing for me. So yeah, I'm an Opie and Anthony fan. I discovered them, like I say, around 2014, and went through YouTube. That's not necessarily as available. It's become more available with Howard Stern, but when I first discovered WATP, who are these podcasts, I had no real knowledge of the Howard Stern show. I knew Howard, I knew Robin, I knew Beetlejuice. They were the ones I knew. And
oh yeah,
wow.
Beetlejuice was because he was on a wrestling show. I think Vince Russo, got him involved in WCW.
Yep.
So that's why I was aware of Beetlejuice. I knew nothing about Howard Stern, and then I discovered WATP and Stuttering John. I know you've been a part of it, but you seem to have backed off a little bit. And I wonder if that's the medical professional in you kind of maybe saying, I'm not comfortable with this anymore. Is that?
No, my Christmas card this year was an AI that someone did in the Discord with a kid, that had treatment related alopecia. He had chemo scalp. He's crying in the background, out of focus. And here I am on my phone saying, okay, Billy, you can have your tramadol after I gift Tukey some memberships. So now that will make no sense to anyone unless they're very deep into the Dabbleverse. But so no, I'm deep into it. I'm just not appearing on WATP right now, trashing Stuttering John, because it does not offer. There's no upside for me for that.
It's got to get tiresome after a while. You know?
Well,
It's too
what's
much.
tiresome about it is I was on that show once to talk about some company that was saying had an ad about what diet to eat if you're going to have anal sex.
Yeah, I
And I
remember
think it
that.
was
Yeah.
Postmates, right?
Yeah.
And they had me on to talk about that and how ridiculous it was. And
A diet, you say, huh?
yeah.
Sorry.
Yes, and high fiber, no
okay.
residue. But they the first segment was about Stuttering John. I was like, oh my God, here we go. And so, I'm not just going to sit there like an asshole and not speak. So I joined in the conversation and I got a couple of laughs, et cetera, et cetera. And John motherfucked me in the DMs for all the next day, wanted me to call him. And I was like, you give me your number. I'm not giving you my number. I would have called him, but I wasn't just going to give him my number. And then he called my my voicemail for my show and said he was going to take everything from me and all this kind of stuff. So it was like, there's just no upside. I have a real job.
Yeah.
And, they're aware of my activities, but I have anyway. So that's, And honestly, I don't want to say too much, but it's like, do you remember Lady Di from Opie and Anthony? I see a lot of parallels there, and that became a very sad story.
Very.
And Diane would call me on my show after Opie and Anthony went off the air, or somewhere in there. The timeline gets fuzzy for me, but and I remember the deal was she could call in if she went to rehab, because I was trying to get her into rehab. I paid her rent so she wouldn't be homeless for a while. And she would call in. I say, are you calling from rehab? Well, no. And it was like, click. And we did that multiple times. And then eventually she ended up in a nursing home with Wernicke-Korsakoff syndrome, which is a dementia that's caused by thiamine deficiency, which is caused by alcoholism. And, now she's happy. She thinks she's on a naval ship. So at least that was the last time she called into Jim and Sam's show. And they didn't realize how bad she had gotten. And when they did, they stopped taking her calls, which was appropriate. Yeah. So it's bad. So it just became very sad. Now, the thing about Diane, she did serve her country. She didn't stay in the Navy. I think she was discharged from the Navy, but she was very proud of her service. And now she gets to do it forever in the nursing home, as a naval, person on a Navy ship.
Yeah, no, it's it like you say, it's not a bad way to go out if that's
but it's sad. And John bragging that he can drink 20 beers. I just saw him do it the other day. I couldn't have been inebriated. I only had 4 beers and a Mike's Hard Lemonade, and I drank 12 beers after that. And I'm like, something bad's going to happen. And we've all of us have reached out to him to say, listen, we will help you. But, until you want help, it's,
Well, I'll tell you this about the Howard Stern world, and from working there, and I've said this on a bunch of shows about Stuttering John. He replicates a lot of what you see behind the scenes at the show. They all have this very inflated sense of self-worth, right? They all think it's 1995 still, for the most part, and that they are on top of the world, and that they can go wherever they want, and that they are the Howard Stern show, and that he is Stuttering John getting booked at Scores to go do blah blah blah, or he can go to this bar and he could get every drink for free because he's Stuttering John, and he'll go on the radio the next morning and tell a story. He still thinks it's that, and it's kind of sad when you really go that deep into it. But if you go back behind the scenes of the show, and were you on the air or were you present at the building?
No, I was.
I mean, would you call in or were you there?
I was calling in. Yeah.
Okay, so if you're like there, you get that aura backstage, and I always like to use the South Park, people who like the smell of their own farts. That's what it is back there, and that's why I don't think I lasted, because I like to keep to myself. And these are people that they need that self gratification, and he just couldn't let it go. And that's my interpretation of him by knowing what it's like back behind the scenes.
Well, listen, he had an amazing career. No one can
without
deny
a doubt,
that.
I completely agree with that.
Now, whether it was by merit or just dumb luck, I mean, he got hired because someone said he had a stutter, and Howard said hire him. So they did, but he did, some amazing things. There's some really funny Stuttering John segments. Of course, they were written for him, but he did them very well. I liked him a lot on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. I thought he was very charming on that. And I think that's where a lot of the opinion that people had that, hey, this guy is kind of a cool guy. And then he got Jay Leno, and I was really happy for him. I thought it was a cool thing. And then, here we are today with, basically, just thinking about our glory days. I get it. If I was on Leno, I'd probably be stuck in those days myself. But, anyway, I just, with the drinking, I just can't, there's no upside for me to get in there and be, making fun of him. I'll help him.
look,
I'll help
I
him. And if
Yeah.
he ever wants help medically getting off alcohol or whatever he needs, I'll never say no to anybody for that. But
no, I know you wouldn't. And you're someone that you've reached out to Chad Zumach at one point, and I don't know how things are going there
yeah,
with
no, he's
Chad,
fine.
but Chad is a little bit of a similar case. Obviously, not quite as old as Stuttering John, but like you've spoken to Chad, and he does seem a little bit reckless at times and all that. How are things going with Chad? Like, are you guys still talking and all that?
Well, yeah, no, sure. I mean, I'm friendly with Chad. I try to be friendly with everyone. I've always tried to be sort of Switzerland in all of this. Because if somebody needs me, I don't want there to be this overlay of, bad feelings or whatever. So I really try to stay away from that if I can. And I'd love for Chad to come to the Tampa show. I would love for all of you guys to come to the Tampa show in March in Largo, Florida. Go to WATP Live. I don't even know if I'm going to be on the show, but I'm going to be there. And drinks around me if you guys, great thing to say after I'm just talking about alcoholism and stuff. But, assuming you're not sober. If you're sober, hearty handshake. But if you're not, drinks around me.
Well, if I could get there by March from here, then I'd love for you to buy
That'd
me
be
a drink.
Today you
awesome.
might make it.
Yeah. Well, good point. Yeah. Let's.
True.
Unfortunately, Robbie's had to sit there this entire time.
Sorry, Robbie.
You had another
No, it's
out.
fine.
No.
I know a little bit of stuff. I'm a fan of Jim Norton. I've seen him in live in Portland, and I've heard like when there's like compilations of when he's been on shows like with his characters. I've heard that, so like I know a little bit about Opie Anthony, and I read both his books, and he kind of touched on some of the Opie Anthony stuff. But I think those were both made maybe before they broke up. I mean, those books are like almost 20 years old
very
now.
No, he mentioned me in both of his books at the acknowledgments.
It was a long
thanks
time
for the
ago.
cock pills or whatever.
Oh, that okay, yeah.
Somewhere in there.
No, it's good learning about it. I'm not completely oblivious to it. My
Well,
brother's actually a big fan of Anthony, like big fan of Anthony, which doesn't. Yeah. So he isn't it like Compound Media is what he does now or something.
Yes.
Something like,
Yeah, he has a network and he's got.
I mean, at least my brother loves it, so I guess there's one person. I don't know.
Robbie, did you want Dr. Steve to forward that information about the best diet pre-anal sex, or
or the cock pills?
Yeah, or the cock pills. So, Dr. Steve, I sent you through a little bit of information about what's been sort of revealed on this podcast about Robbie's particular health issues, and I sent you like sort of some measurements, which Robbie would like to keep those quiet. But I guess first of all, I wanted to talk about BMI, and I like to refer to Robbie as morbidly obese. and
Okay.
I would like you to confirm that for me. But I do have an issue.
Confirm it. I don't think it needs confirmation.
No. But no, I did want to discuss BMI just in terms of like back in the old days. Like I remember sitting in the doctor's office and looking at the BMI indicator and seeing the weight that I would have to be at a healthy weight. And I'm like, I would look emaciated. You know what I mean? I would look like I'm training for a marathon or something. I'm built bigger than the average person. Has there been adjustments made to BMI to make it a little bit more realistic?
Yeah, to a certain degree. The thing is, BMI is a very simple calculation, and it is because it's a very simple calculation, it is going to be inaccurate for some subset of people. But what it is decent for is telling you kind of what you already know. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It kind of tells you what you already know. If your BMI is 40, that's considered class 3 obesity. That used to be called morbid obesity or super obesity, whatever. And
what sounds worse? Sorry, super obesity or morbid obesity?
I'd go with I would say super obesity is way
that
better.
one I've never
Sounds
heard
way
that one. And
cooler.
that one's like, let's PC cut out the super. I don't want
But-
people to say I'm
But
super
given
obese.
your mental health issues, I think
he's super
morbid
obese.
Yeah.
But well, that's a
Yeah,
good point.
yeah,
There's the
that's
gay
true.
angle. There's the gay angle.
No, I wasn't doing that.
Sorry to interrupt.
But anyway, it just kind of tells you what you already know. It's just a way to the reason we classify things, for example, most cancers come in 4 stages, right? You've got stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3, which have to do with the size of the tumor. And then stage 4 is when the cancer is spread to a distant part of the body. Why do we stage people that way? Just because it's fun or we can't? No, it's because we treat them different, or there's different prognosis for each one of those stages. So there are different health risks in general, statistically, for people, say, with a body mass index of 25 to 29, which is considered overweight, 30 or higher, which is considered obesity, and 40 or higher, which is considered class 3 obesity. So, and those health risks can be stratified that way. But the only crystal ball we have is statistics, right? So these are just statistical measures. They don't apply to the individual as much as they do to large class or large groups of people. So I have a lot of the obese, the InfiniFat influencers that say, oh no, BMI is all bullshit. It is bullshit in the sense that it is highly fuzzy and inaccurate. But if you got a BMI greater than 40, there's no bullshit involved in that. The fact remains that having a BMI of 40 or greater will lead to certain, it increases the risk of certain health issues. Not everybody will have those. Not all smokers get lung cancer. It just increases your risk by a huge amount. And so having a BMI of 40 or greater increases the risk of certain health issues. Now, there's times when being overweight is actually health protective. And so people will cherry pick these things and say, see, that makes us healthy. It's so if you get cancer and you have a BMI of 18, you're likely not to live as long as if you get cancer and you have a BMI of 28 or 30 even, because you have more reserves to work on. So BMI, yes, there's a bullshit angle to it. It is useful, but it's useful mostly statistically. It has some use in the individual, but again, when you have a BMI of 40, you already know. You don't need the BMI to tell you that you're overweight.
Now, you don't necessarily have to say it's 40 or 40 plus, but just on the information I sent you about Robbie,
it's over 40. Jesus,
it's over 40.
I would assume so, though.
I didn't calculate Robbie's. I didn't.
All right, good.
I don't
It's
have any
probably-
permission from Robbie to do anything with his medical information.
Yeah,
No, fair enough.
You can do whatever.
So. Okay, I'll take that as consent.
Yeah.
No, look, it's fine. We know Robbie's at a very dangerous state. No, Robbie, what I did want, and I want to throw it over to you here because this has been well documented on our podcast. Your spate of ear infections and all of that. Let Dr. Steve know how many you've had and the particular diagnosis you were given about your head.
Head?
Or do I just explain? I was trying to get you involved in the show.
More about
Robbie,
your medical diagnosis than you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like with the ear infections, I mean, I had tubes as a kid and it seemed to help for a while, but like I probably had at least 20 ear infections by the time I was 18, and then I just get them every year. And then I worked in a high volume environment for like 2 or 3 months, where to the point where like I was wondering why my ear felt like it was burning when I wasn't working, because it was 3 days on, 4 days off. And ever since then, even though that was about a year and a half ago, I don't know, the left ear is always really sensitive, and I don't know, ever since then it feels like I get sinus infections more often, or sinus attacks more often. I don't know, I just haven't felt very well ever since I stopped working. Yeah, because the doctor was like, you gotta stop working at this. The music, like, it was so loud. If you have an Apple Watch, it would say something like more than 5. It would be that like 5-minute alert, like you shouldn't be in this environment, it's too loud.
Yeah.
Thing. And I'd work there for 4 hours Friday through Sunday. So,
well, okay, that's a separate issue. Let me. Can you guys see this? Can I present my screen?
Oh, if you
you may have to allow it.
Yeah. I think you got to share it, Dean, or Aussie guy. Sorry.
Oh, you doxed him.
Sorry. Bleep it.
If you can't show it, it's okay. I was going to show you.
Oh, I see it. Here we go.
There it is.
Okay. So let's look over here. This is the anatomy of the middle ear. So here's your ear canal, then your eardrum, and then you've got those little bones in there. And then the bones transmit sound to the inner ear, which is not pictured here. But this tube, all air-filled cavities in the body have a tube going to the outside so that pressure can be equalized. And this is called the eustachian tube. And the eustachian tube opens up at the back of the throat. That isn't very well depicted here, but this is actually inside the mouth at the very back of the throat. So when you go in an airplane, right, when you're going up, the air pressure decreases out here, and the air inside here will be under higher pressure, and so the eardrum will bow out. And so what you have to do is yawn, and then the air pressure will be evacuated through the eustachian tube into the back of the throat, and then you pop your ears. When you're going back down, air pressure outside increases, pushing in the eardrum, and you have to hold your nose and blow. And what you're doing is you're blowing air up into this eustachian tube to equalize that pressure. Okay. So what happens in kids is this eustachian tube opening is very small, and it gets easily clogged up. And all of these blood vessels that are in here act like oxygen, or vacuum pumps, and they take oxygen molecules out of here and take it to other parts of the body, and you end up with a low pressure in here. And the pressure gets so low that this whole place will fill up with fluid, and then one snort from a snotty kid up into here, you get bacteria in there, and you get a middle ear infection. And the reason that they put tubes in is because then that will equalize the pressure. So the tube goes right here, and then you will equalize the pressure, and then you no longer get fluid in the middle ear. You don't get infections anymore. So that's one thing. Now, I'll go ahead and stop that. The business with the high decibels, if you work in a high decibel business like music production or something like that, you've got to wear ear protection. You just have to. And now they make these noise canceling earphones that you can put in your ears, that when the noise gets above a certain level, then it will turn down the amplitude. Because what happens is the inner ear has little hairs in there that sense tones, and they're resonant. So, a standing wave, or, a sound wave will go through and it will resonate with all these different hairs, and it creates this waveform that we interpret as sound. And when you kill those hairs, it doesn't work anymore. And it could be a late complication of being around loud noises is, deafness. So you'll want to still make friends with your ear, nose, and throat physician, who will have an odd.
He hasn't been helpful, but yeah, it's
Well,
like every time I go to a doctor, if it's for a checkup, or if it's like if I'm sick, but it's not an ear thing. Literally every time they check my ears, they're like, "Oh, you have an ear infection." So I don't know. It's just odd. Like every single time.
Well, now
At
there's
least for the
external
last
ear
4
infections
years.
too. Are they talking about external ear infection? Are they talking about
Well,
infection of
when
the
they put
canal?
the thing, when they put the scope in your ear, they'll be like, "Oh,
Yeah.
there's red. Yeah, there's like redness all around the drum and everything."
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'd like to
It's
look
just
at
interesting because my ear always hurts.
it. Later on, let me know where you are, because if we're ever in the same place, I'll look in your ear myself. I'll tell you what's real.
Okay.
Yeah,
But
That's
by the way, we got two fluids in the same sentence. That
yeah.
was
No,
awesome.
I did notice the fluids as
We
well.
got two for
did,
one. Yes.
yeah, I did do a mini little pop myself, but I had fluid.
Your audience doesn't know, but that's been my buzzword, thanks to Jim Norton. And now, every time I say fluid, if you're in my job, you have to say fluid all the time. And every time I say it, I just think of Jim.
If I was behind you, I'd be going, yes.
So stupid.
One more thing just on Robbie. Robbie does have himself a little bit of anxiety.
Okay.
He was very anxious coming into this episode.
I'm sorry.
No, well, it's my fault. I orchestrated all of this. So yeah, I'm the bad guy. But no, I just like given Robbie's health situation, he is obese and all that, but do mental health issues really do they have a bigger effect on your physical health?
Yeah, you can't separate the mind from the body.
Yeah,
you can't. It's impossible. And there's the whole mind gut axis and all of that stuff. And the interesting thing is that psychological states can affect the gut, but also gut disease can affect the psyche. And we find this all the time in medicine. There's this thing in psychology called EMDR. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's an eye movement technique. And what they found is when we're in REM sleep, our eyes move back and forth, right? And you're processing data from the day. That's the hypothesis. But what they also found is that if you move your eyes back and forth, you can force the brain to process information. So we see this all the time, where you have one cause that makes an effect, but the effect can also create the cause, in reverse, if that makes any sense. So you have the psyche affecting the gut. So if you're anxious, irritated, it can cause diarrhea or abdominal pain. But if you have bad colonies of bacteria in the gut causing pain, it can affect your mental state. So what we recommend is that people pay attention to the microbiome in their gut, and decrease the inflammation. Total body inflammation is a health risk. Decrease the inflammation in their gut, and you feel better in general, including your mental health. So, I highly recommend, Robbie, if you have irritable bowel syndrome, which I think the Aussie guy told me that you may have some of that. If you treat that, your anxiety may actually improve. So it's a cool non-pharmacologic way to treat anxiety, is to drink kombucha which actually, if you develop a taste for it, it's not bad. And I made my own. I make my own kombucha. I actually enjoy it.
So I should drink that.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that that's, if you, it's good for irritable bowel. There's a medication called Enterigam, which is basically antibodies from cows. And they made it into a medical food that decreases inflammation in the bowel. It actually binds bacterial bodies and true toxins that are causing inflammation in the bowel and causes them to be eliminated without actually coming in contact with the bowel. And that stuff is amazing for people, your listeners who have irritable bowel syndrome. And even if you only have 100 listeners, there's going to be 20 people that have irritable bowel that have tried everything and nothing has worked. Write this down, Enterigam, and get your doctor or advanced practice provider to write it for you. It's ENTERAGAM. Now, if you're vegan, you can't have it because it's derived from cows, but it is really one of the greatest advances in irritable bowel technology that we've ever had. And most people don't know anything about it. I use it with my cancer patients who have what's called mucositis. If they have chemotherapy that can affect the cells, the growing cells in the gut, because you're killing cells that grow fast. Well, cancer cells grow fast, but so do gut cells. And so they'll have pain and diarrhea and stuff. And I give them this Enterigam, and it's like a miracle for them. So
can I just ask a quick question too? But what about like a physical regimen or a vitamin regimen or just getting the body moving and water,
sure,
and stuff like that? Is that like could a diuretic, simple diuretic, like an herbal tea once a day, something like that, get the movement flowing for him if he wanted to start some sort of physical regimen too, instead of just some of these other maybe long-term things like the BMI that takes a while to come down? Is there short-term things he could do as well?
Oh, absolutely. No, listen, 10% decrease in body weight decreases your risk of sudden death significantly by a huge percent. So, the problem, and I'm not talking about you now, Robbie. I have no idea how much you weigh, but I have a friend who weighs 600 pounds.
Oh, well.
He lost 100 pounds.
I'm not,
and it was
I'm
like,
not that bad. So,
no, okay. I know. I'm just saying, and you guys know who he is. You've heard him on the air, and he's actually said that he weighed that much, but he weighs 600 pounds. He lost 100 pounds. It was like, awesome. You lost 100 pounds. He still weighed 500 pounds.
Yeah.
So it's tough, but so that could be very discouraging, but looking at the health benefits from him losing 100 pounds. I mean, just think about carrying 100 pounds of taters around all day. And, now you just cast those off. It's, it's going to be good for you. It decreased his risk of sudden death already just by doing that. So and he's doing very well. He's down to about 275 now. So
that's awesome. Wow.
That is great.
Yeah.
And isn't it the math like a 1 pound, losing 1 pound is 4 pounds of pressure off each knee, or
that's what the
something
radio
like that?
commercial said.
Radio
for years.
For
years.
Yeah.
You got that from that ad on the
yes,
Ben Maller.
the Ben Maller. Yeah. And also,
I do know that every 35 pounds that you lose, you gain 1 inch in penis length.
Oh, there you go.
Robbie, that's only linear.
Pounds, huh?
Yeah, I know what you mean, but that'll work for Robbie. That's good.
Yeah. Oh no, listen, I quit smoking. I quit smoking not because of the cancer risk. I was a doctor at this point. I dissected bodies that had atherosclerosis. I've seen it. I've seen the lungs, just the black lung and the lung cancer and the strokes and all that stuff. None of that scared me. What scared me was finding out the number one cause of impotence in men over 40 is tobacco abuse. Then I put them down. So, if the heart attacks and the stroke and all that stuff doesn't do it, if knowing that you're going to gain penis length by losing weight, if that motivates you, whatever works,
Yeah. Look, I know you are pressed for time. Robbie, did you want anything else? Did you want to ask anything else from Dr. Steve?
Robbie didn't want anything.
Yeah.
Well, that's not necessarily true. I
It
wasn't
doesn't have to
very
be about
familiar with it.
you. It could be about something in general. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I was just saying it wasn't that. Just usually the tone of the show is people making fun of me. So when I heard a doctor was going on and it was with Opie and Anthony, I'm like, what is this going to entail?
Oh
So
yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah. No, I don't.
yeah.
I've
So
always my
that's why I was nervous. So
my
I
philosophy
kept
has
telling him
always
to
been
relax.
I never want someone to regret calling into my show asking me
yeah,
for help. So
yeah. So I don't know. I've got so many
I've
issues.
it's fine.
I've,
Email me. It's fine.
I've got
Really?
I've got one.
Now we know each other. You just email me.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've got one
I'm
kind
putting
of
my email in the
inappropriate.
private chat. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So yeah, I've got one maybe a little bit inappropriate question, but it's just kind of the place that
No
I go.
such thing.
Ricky Gervais has quite a funny bit about when his grandmother was on the way out, and he called his mother and asked how his grandmother was going and all that, and she just went, she just won't die, Rick. Like it was a thing of like it was time for her to go, and everyone was just exhausted by it all.
Yeah.
Have you sort of? Is there any like sort of situations where you've sort of felt that where you're like, oh God, I just wish it could happen for this person?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Sure.
Like out of vengeance or like out of
No,
mercy?
like
No.
in terms,
Because they're suffering. I know what he's talking about.
in
Yeah,
suffering.
no,
Yeah,
I know.
yeah.
It was a bad
Or the people
example.
around them are suffering.
Yes, yeah.
I've seen this multiple times when someone is on life support and they're not going to make it. The family makes the decision to withdraw treatment. We don't withdraw care, we withdraw treatment and let the patient die naturally. And when they do that and then they don't die, the family now thinks, oh gosh, did we do the wrong thing? And in fact, they didn't. They did exactly the right thing because, we all have different lines beyond which we wouldn't want to go. And, death is a natural part of life. That's the one thing that all of us have in common. And it's the price of admission. If you want to be here, you have to leave someday. It's just like, our lives are constructed like the universe. The universe has a beginning. We're in the middle of it. It will have an end. Vacations have a beginning, a middle, and end. You check into a hotel, you got to leave. So it's just part of it, and normalizing that, because when you run into problems with people not accepting their inevitable demise is when they just haven't thought about it. They have this sort of magical thinking that it'll never happen to them. And so if someone is suffering or if the family is exhausted, I would just want to throw this out. If you have a family that's, say, in hospice and the family has become exhausted taking care of them, there actually is in the United States, a benefit called respite care, where they could come get the patient, take them, put them in a hospice house or in a hospital, or even in a nursing facility for up to 5 days at no cost, just to give the family a break. So there's a lot of things involve your palliative medicine providers, and hospice is not what you think it is. 30 years ago, people were sent to hospice with 3 days to live and they had to, sedate them. And so people got the idea that hospice dopes people up until they die. That's not the case. And your local hospice provider should provide quality, compassionate care at end of life. See, we're ending the show on a real high note.
Yeah, no, that
really,
was my intention.
Really wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
no,
anyway,
that was my intention because that's the kind of sick.
well,
fuck that
I'm
I am.
rambling too because I'm not really 100% sure how to answer the question about Ricky Gervais's mom, but or
No,
grandmother.
that's
But yeah,
fair point. No,
but
look,
yeah, we're all going to leave in our good time. That's the thing, and we all got to accept that. And you're not going to leave until if you believe in the creator, you're not going to leave till the creator's ready for you, or you're not going to leave until the universe, all the proper steps have been taken for you to leave this world, or your body has come to a certain state where it just stops functioning. It really it's programmed to live as long as it can. You will breathe until you don't,
Yeah, I think
it's amazing.
Robbie is best set up for he will live until the body just stops functioning.
Well,
That's
it's true for all of us.
Hey, but knock on wood.
We could The three of us could get hit by a meteor right now. The odds are not zero. And
Well,
Robbie
it would-
could be just sitting there going, well, I'm the last man standing. So
It would have to be multiple meteors.
You're right. Yes.
So it's an
odds are
astronomical
still not
difference.
zero.
Yeah. It's true. That's a good way. Look, we've blown past your heart out, which I appreciate that, Dr. Steve. I couldn't thank you enough. I was pretty giddy.
We're not going to play the headline game.
Oh, that's right. Sorry, I did forget about Bull Pucky. Yes.
I
Do you
did
wanna
bring a
play-
headline.
You did? All right.
Yes,
Headline game. You didn't tell me about no stinking headline game. What's this?
Well, the game is Bull
There's my
Pucky,
headline.
Chad. And if you've got something off the top of your head, I'll let you play against Dr. Steve. Well, you don't have to put it on the screen, Dr. Steve, but
I did.
okay.
I put it on. Oh,
oh,
no.
you put it on the screen. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, that's fine. Chad, so the game is Bull Pucky. What we do, you tell a story, you give a headline of a story, and then your opponent gets to ask you 3 questions. And after asking the 3 questions, your opponent has to decipher whether you're telling the truth or whether it was Bull Pucky. So, yeah, a story from your life that is a truth or a stretch of the truth, I guess, is the best way to describe it. We can let Dr. Steve go first. And if you've got a story you can think of.
Sure. Well, that's my headline. If Robbie, if you want to put it back up.
Oh, yeah.
You're welcome to. At age, well, my voice is just gone. At age 17, Dr. Steve lost his virginity in a threesome with 2 women, aged 44
Wow.
and 65.
What do you think, Chad? Do you want to take this on?
So what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to guess.
He doesn't know how to play the game.
Well,
Yeah,
you
I mean,
ask
let me
him-
watch.
All right. I'll ask. All right. So, lost your virginity in a threesome, 2 women aged 44 and 65.
Correct.
Were you at some sort of an event?
I was, yes, I was playing piano in a bar.
Playing piano in a bar. Oh, that's interesting.
And they picked me up.
Playing piano in a bar. Well, did
And I
you
was
close with?
17.
Did you close with Piano Man? No, you would have been. That wouldn't have existed yet,
No.
would it? No. All right, that's a bad question. I picked up from a bar. You were 17, 44 and 65. Did they know each other?
Yes, they were.
Yes.
They were there together.
They were there together. This is a tough one to ask questions about. Did they take you back somewhere like a house or a hotel or something?
Yeah, the bar was
this
in a
to occur?
hotel.
The bar was in it, so you just went upstairs.
Correct.
I'm going to go that that's true.
Yeah, it's completely true.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, completely true.
Fill me in, Doc Steve. What's the?
It's slightly embellished in the sense that the 65-year-old simply pleasured herself while the 44-year-old and I.
Nice.
But
There you
I
go.
didn't know that until the next morning. So I was so nervous that I basically went all night with this and she was really hot. They were both very attractive, but I was 17. And so I went basically all night with the 44-year-old, and then I got up in the morning and I was so nervous I never completed the transaction. So I'm starting to just sort of sneak out of the room, and the 65-year-old goes, "Good morning, doll." And I'm like, "Oh," well, and she said, "I watched you 2 last night, doll." And I'm like, oh, really? Oh God, I'm in a weird situation. I mean, I'm 17. I don't know what the hell's going on. And she said, "Yeah, I masturbated, doll." And I said, "Well, I got to go." She said, "Why don't you stick around?" And I went, "I really got to go." And she was wearing a silk nightgown, right? And she took a glass of water and went, "Oops," and spilled it all over something. She's still laying down. And then she grabbed my hand and started rubbing it all over her boobs, right?
Nice.
And now this is my biggest regret. the biggest regret of my life is that I immediately left the room instead of staying there and having intercourse with her as well.
Yeah.
Because the 44-year-old was a dullard. She was awesome. Now, I'm 68 now, so how old would she be? What's 65 minus 17?
Oh, jeez, that's
let me see.
48, isn't it?
Is it? Yeah, so
48.
68 plus 48 is
Jesus, 100 and...
Wow, that's-
116.
Yeah.
Man, oh man.
I took the virginity of a young man. He was, oh God.
Even the 44-year-old is what, 102 at this point?
Yeah, is she
102?
102?
Yeah. Or
Let me show
92,
you.
maybe.
Let me show you a picture of me from then, and then let's see.
We'll see if Robbie would have been into you.
Okay, here we go. Let me stop that screen and then present this screen.
Do it, Robbie. You seem to know how to do it.
There we go.
Oh, hello.
I had zero game.
That's not a bad looking dude.
No, it was all right, but no game whatsoever.
Give him a little bit of that fluid.
I married the first person that slept with me twice. So,
well, there you go.
Now, so did I.
there you go. Anyway, all right. So that's my story.
All right. Well, yours is a lot more fun and interesting. I'm going with I once accidentally knocked out power to a multi-million-dollar workshop unannounced. I guess accidentally kind of suggests they're unannounced. But yeah.
How was this? How was the short created?
Via a screwdriver.
A screwdriver.
Yeah.
Inserted where and how?
It was on a switchboard via two phases.
A switchboard via two phasers. What do you mean?
Sorry, so
Is this
two
my third question.
Yeah, well, I guess it is. It was three phases of power coming in. So
Oh, I see. Okay. Oh, it's like an electrical switchboard.
Yeah.
Well, why would somebody make up a stupid story like that? That's got to be true.
I mean, yeah, that's got to be. You're just
Well,
bragging.
I didn't make up the story. It wasn't a multi-million-dollar workshop. That was my that was my
We should have just let Dr. Steve do his story.
I know. No, but you are correct. It's a true story. I was just installing a new circuit, and while trying to screw in a circuit breaker, I slipped. And my screwdriver, and just the explosion in my face.
Yeah, kids don't try this at home. Turn the power off before you mess.
So that's why you look like that now, huh?
Yeah, that's a qualified electrician doing that. So
wow.
Yeah. Imagine what you do if you're trying it on your own. But yeah, no, that was that was one of the scarier ones of like it's having to then call like the electrical supplier for the entire state and say, yeah, we just blew a fuse for some reason. I'm not sure what happened, but the fuse got blown, because you don't want to report to them that you just shorted two phases.
Sure.
Well, doing your job that you're supposedly qualified for. But that was good fun. Well, thank you, Dr. Steve. Your story was way better than mine, and
1,000 times.
yeah, very.
1,000 times where he's having the what would you call somebody in their hundreds? Is that an octogenarian?
Yeah, no, that'd be an 80-year-old, a centenarian.
Okay, there you go. Well, there are two of them.
Yeah,
and that's how old they really. That was the lie. That's how old they really were during that exchange you had with them.
Right. The lie was they were both 100 years old.
Right, yeah, they were 102 and 116.
Well, certainly the combined age at the time was 100 plus, was not. He was. Anyway, Dr. Z, look, our audience isn't huge, but get the word out. Weird Medicine, all of that. Let us know what you want to plug.
Yeah. Weird Medicine, wherever you get podcasts, just Google Weird Medicine with Dr. Steve. We've got a YouTube channel I don't do much with, where we don't really, I'm old school. I was an old school radio guy. So, we do an audio podcast, but there is a video element to it if you're interested in that. And then we have Patreon too, patreon.com/Weird Medicine. And the thing I really enjoy, and it's very inexpensive, is Cameo. I do a bunch of cameos. They're dirt cheap, sometimes $2, sometimes $5, but I'll say anything. I'll say fluid to your mama or whatever. And I answer some medical questions on there too, even though I'm not supposed to, but cameo.com/Weird Medicine. But thanks for letting me plug all that stuff. Really enjoyed being here with you guys today. It's always fun.
No, thank you so much for coming on. I love the fact that we could get you on, and
of course.
Thought it would be
nobody.
good fun.
It's not that big of a deal.
You're definitely somebody. And even when I saw Patrick Melton get a little bit giddy about Dr. Steve, I was like,
wow, you really are deep into this.
Oh yeah. I'm a big Patrick Melton fan. I listen to Melton every day. I think
I'm becoming more. I really like the AI voice.
That's
that you
fun.
can do.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of those that I did that you are not aware of, and I would not
that's great.
I would not admit to doing them, but they're very funny to me.
No, that's great. I love that you're doing that, and that you keep it a secret. But no, I think Patrick is, in terms of a broadcaster, out of everyone in this Dabbleverse, or and the things around it, I think as a broadcaster, Patrick is worlds ahead of everyone else.
He's the one person I would not want to go crossways with.
Yeah, no, Patrick will dig deep, and
no thanks.
He'll fuck your dead child's body.
I just want to be friends with everybody.
Thank you so much, Dr. Steve. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm gonna run through Chad's plugs and all that, but you can by all means head off. So thank you, man. I really appreciate it.
Nice to meet
you guys. Yeah, you too. Take care.
Take care.
Yep.
I'll probably be emailing you. So
feel free, man.
Yeah, I'll give you his email. So it's okay.
I took a picture of the screen.
All right, cool. Thank you, Dr. Steve. What a legend.
Let me tell you. Let me give Robbie some advice. Okay. It's all about projection, Robbie. Okay. You could be all the things that they said earlier. You could say the BMI, whatever else. It's all about projection. You got to have that confidence up. Just keep the confidence up. Don't listen to what Aussie guy has to say. Don't let him tear you down. Go back at him. Give him a jab. Don't let him take jabs at you. You jab back. Give the confidence back, man. It's all about staying up. Don't slink down. Stay up. It's all about confidence.
That's great advice, Chad. Robbie, you got any thoughts in response to that?
No, that's great advice.
You don't dig at me enough, and there's plenty to dig at me at, and you don't.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
2024. Aussie guy.
Hey, that's what I'm always looking for. I'll never ever get upset at somebody firing
that's good,
back.
Because
that's
what
it's all about.
Point finger. I'll be vague. I have a heart. It's times when I go back at people, I don't judge who can take a criticism back very well. I'll be like, oh, they're joking with me, so I can joke with them, and the next thing you know, they're threatening to kill me or quitting shows and stuff. So yeah,
let them quit. Who gives a shit? I literally I honestly I'm at the point I don't care what anybody has to say about me personally in this world, whether it's this world in front of me, this little box, or the world behind me here. If you don't like the confidence factor, if you don't like me, I really don't care anymore. I got to this point where I'm at because of what I've done. And if you don't like it, too bad, man. You gotta project it. If you don't project it, people will literally tear at you like a piranha. You got to give what you get.
Well, the great thing about Robbie is, and I've said it before, Robbie to me is like Homer Simpson in the boxing episode.
It's true.
Nobody can take more hits than Robbie, and he will be left standing at the end when you've punched yourself out and you're exhausted. He'll still be standing there going, Is that all you got? That all you got? That's
So what do you
that's
what
what
do
I'd
you
say.
mow? What do you mow with the angel
Yeah,
wings?
yeah.
Gonna come and rescue
Yeah.
him out? Are you an
Yeah.
angel?
Yeah, either that or I'm Dreadering Tatum, one of
Dredger
the two. But
Tatum.
yeah, but no, I got all the respect of the world for Robbie, and I appreciate him like basically sitting back and going through that today. But as I said, Robbie, relax. Dr. Steve is such a pro, and he proved that again, as he always does. And I think he gave you some great information, and you seem to be a little bit perked up from it. So I honestly am glad we did it. Chad, thank you for joining us. It was great to have your thoughts, especially Sound New Zealand, especially during the Opie and Anthony stuff and the Dabbleverse stuff. Yeah, some great insights. Thanks for joining us. Let everyone know about all your goings on.
Sure. At Chad EMB on Twitter, at IB Exclusives on Instagram. Catch me on Eyes Up Here with the Queen of Extreme, Francine. We're on iHeartRadio. We drop every Tuesday. Brand new episodes. You could also find us on your favorite podcasting app. That's the audio version. But if you want to catch us on video, it's on YouTube. Just search Eyes Up Here with Francine in the search bar. I think it's like Eyes Up Here, or it's at ECW Diva Francine if you want to put it in like the full URL. I don't remember what the full thing is, but we got memberships, full episodes, a lot of history about ECW and everything in between. But catch us on there. New episodes every week, new content dropping every day. You won't be disappointed if you like some of that Queen of Extreme. But also find us on Get My Go, me and the Aussie guy. New episode coming soon. It was a good one. I won't give out too much information about it, but it was pretty damn good. Could be one of the best ones we've ever done. But if you want to find more on Get My Go, search that as well on YouTube.
Thank you, Chad. We won't worry about our plugs because we're pretty much ending this recording and going live. Yeah, thank you all for joining us. And 2024, we actually need to get Francine here on United States.
And am I ever going to be able to come on a live stream? I mean, I'm always
Definitely
taped in the can one, especially in the can ones that get scrapped.
Yeah.
And
well, they're not scrapped.
The one that made me look like a genius. The one that made me look like a genius when I said, yeah, I think the Arizona Diamondbacks have a sneaky shot to make the World Series, and everyone looked at me like an idiot. Shocking that one never
happened. That episode never took place.
Exactly. Apparently, I never said it.
It's still there. It's not been scrapped.
Yeah, it's there.
If you put that out, if you put that out, I will personally boycott this show. That you put out a 2023 MLB playoff preview.
No, see, this is the thing.
Just clip the part where I said something smart.
There's plenty of that show that is actually not.
Okay, good. All right.
There's literally like a 10-minute period of that show that is 2023 based. The rest of it is actually just a general discussion about baseball. So go fuck yourselves.
I'd like to be on a live show at some point.
No, we'll definitely do it. And if you wanted to talk NFL, you come join us now. But
I would rather bury my head in the sand somewhere. So
yeah, that's right.
I think I go do that.
Yeah.
All right, go do that. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely.
We'll catch you next time on United States of Australia.
On the flip side.
Oh, always got to click it.